Martini in lane 8 will be a favorite like Denis Gustafsson in lane 7, and Eduardo in lane 9. Eduardo Linares Ruiz from Peru will be also a boat to watch. You see all the other boats, and we will have the chance to see them all individually before they start their race. Rowers must have their names on them. So this is Andrew Hurley from Ireland. He will be in lane 1. So of course being in lane 1 means you were 8th in your heat. In lane 2 we will have a rower from USA, All-American Rowing Camp. He's Benjamin Booth. Here he is, Benjamin Booth from USA, 7th in his heat. In lane 3, another Irish guy from loughros Point, Patrick Boomer. In lane 4, from Monaco, Giuseppe Alberti. In lane 5, British guy, Francis Hyde. Nice suit. From Germany, Lars Richard from Hamburg. In lane 7 we'll have from Sweden, Denis Gustafsson.
Raise the volume, folks. It's the A final for the men's solo. Such a quick start. Look at them all go out. All they want to do is get away from the shoreline as rapid as possible. I'm sure they'll worry about the navigation in a few moments' time. They'll be looking at their boat holders for all the help they can get as to whether they're going dead straight. You can see the boat holder here for Martini saying he's going dead straight. A great course for him. He's not quite out in front because alongside him, Gustafsson for Sweden, he's taken the early lead alongside Linares Ruiz for Universitario de Regatas of Peru. Quite a flat line of scullers out there. Nobody really surging too far ahead just yet. Nobody getting left behind either. They're all going to start converging. Martini has a quick peek over his right shoulder just to see where Gustafsson is. And then you can see across from them as the two sides merge, you can see Linares Ruiz for Universitario has made the best of the start from the right-hand side of the field here. But they're all starting to establish that race rhythm. They've had their start. They're going to start to wind it down, go for that length and real pressure through the water, start to manage out their power curves so that it's a sustainable rhythm that they can hold for the full 6K. Such an immense distance they're covering here, but they're heading towards the first turning point. We've affectionately renamed the Widowmaker, and it's a tough corner to get round because they all converge into that pinprick of a corner where they all want to row the shortest distance possible before they make their way to the next buoy, which we call the 1 miler, all the way out there because it's roughly a mile there and a mile back. Distances are enormous here for this 8th final of the men's solo. So let's find out how they're progressing now that they're slightly out of eye shot. We've got our commentator out there on the course. Camilla, how's it looking?
It's looking very chevron-like. The Judicial Committee again seeding the lanes very well from the heat as we have a spearhead formation. That's what the chevron means. It means that the middle 2 crews have been seeded as the fastest crews, and then we go outwards along the triangle to the slower qualifiers from the heats. But it is at the front of that field. We had Sweden, Gustafsson, that went out really cleanly. A beautiful start from him. Perhaps looking to try and take on the title from previous Swedish champion Peter Berg from a few years ago. Maybe he's the new Swedish superstar. He had a fantastic heat yesterday to get through to this final, but he's now lining up alongside the big dogs, and it's France 1 as well, looking to try and establish the lead at the moment. Ledard was off the blocks like a rocket yesterday, but can he hold on this time around when you've got some really big challengers up there in the leading pack? We've also got in formation behind those 2 and creeping round the outside now, we've got the Peruvian just edging up the bow side of the Italian sculler. It's Italy 1 now, coming towards the front of the field, and no surprise there, it's Simone Martini who's ploughing his way past the Swede in front of the Peruvian, and he now takes the lead by 3/4 of a length. But this pack is so tight here in the middle of the field, and they've all grouped very much together in the middle. Like you were saying, Pete, they've all just gravitated towards one another to try and stick together around these lines, around the turns. They're all going for that same point in the distance, which is probably a tiny speck to you there on the bank. That red buoy at turning point 1, 1.4 kilometres away. They're all heading for the same marker and using those waypoints on the stern, on the bank, to try and keep them on course, heading in the same direction, not rowing any further than they need to. And the drone following these single sculls, all in flotilla formation, must look absolutely gorgeous at the moment. We've got beautiful conditions, the light looks perfect, and it must be capturing some great shots. But it's directly above the Swede at the moment. It's above Gustafsson of Sweden 2, who sits in the bronze medal position. But to his right, he has the German. He's got Lars Vikart, the lightweight rower, to his right. To his left, he's got the other Italian to worry about. That's Italy 4, and on representing Italy 4, we've got Federico Garibaldi, who is up there and looking for a medal. He's got a sniff of it at the moment. He's got overlap with the bronze medal position, but it's still very early days yet. We've seen in the previous singles race with the women that very unexpected things can happen, just like it did for the Netherlands. We can catch crabs, there can be miscalculated turns, but all looking good so far for these solo scullers. And actually, they've pinned themselves much closer to this buoy than a lot of the earlier races have done. I don't know if the wind's died down somewhat or the current as well, but they are much closer now to turning point 1 than we've seen in previous races. Some great steersmanship from all of these 4 athletes. That also means they've managed to keep themselves in alignment with the buoy. And as we head into turning point 1, it's still Simone Martini of Italy with a 3/4 of a length lead over Peru. The Swedes still up there as well. We've still got Dennis Gustafsson just nipping at the heels of the Italian, but on his right they've just hit a huge wave, and that's a really bad move from Gustafsson of Sweden. Him and the German Lars Vikart have just clashed oars. They're completely intertwined with one another, and that's allowed the pack to run straight through them starboard side blade. It was just a slight wave that caught them. There was a ripple from a bit of wash that hit from one side. It pushed the Swede into the German, and then they ended up locked in with their blades together. So that has meant the door has opened for Italy for Federico Garibaldi. He's now sat in that bronze medal position. I don't know whether he would have expected that around turning point one, having been over a length down from Lars Vikart and from Gustafsson. But he now is fighting in with the medals. These things happen. There was me just talking about how unexpected some of these things can be, and it was almost the commentary curse, I must say, that allowed that to happen. It's now Spain 2 riding in fourth after all of that drama. Spain 2 representing Real Club Mediterraneo, now trying to fight off a surge from Sweden again. Gustafsson looking to make amends for that blip along with Lars Vikart. Lars Vikart takes a look over his right hand shoulder. He can't see anyone there because everyone's in to his left. They're sticking nice and tight in towards the straightest line towards the boy. He's trying not to get caught out and is now starting to move towards the pack again, but he won't want to get caught. Maybe that will just make him a little bit more tentative because of that earlier clash with the Swede. Sometimes these things happen. That was very unexpected, Paul and Peter. Do you think that Vikart's now going to be a bit more tentative about getting close to other boats because of that intertwine with the Swedish sculler?
Well, I think for anyone, it's a moment that makes one think, Camilla, about how wise was one to get that close, and was probably likely to be a little bit more cautious. I think someone as athletic as Lars Vikart, as a very experienced and successful lightweight rower, that won't take anything out of his enthusiasm for speed in this race, but certainly round the next bend, perhaps a little more careful, perhaps go a little wider, look just that one extra time over one shoulder, as one should do anyway when one's rowing in any conditions. Always safety comes first, and that's particularly crucial, of course, then in this kind of situation with a lot of crews bunched up around the thing. I think it's unlikely to make any difference to his speed once he gets going. Perhaps a little more annoyance, driving some adrenaline as he comes off that collision. But it depends how both of them respond, of course. I hope there's no needle match resulting, unlikely at this level of professionalism. And we just hope that that hasn't rattled either of them too much or done any damage to any of their equipment, because that, of course, can also be a consequence of that kind of collision. But you're accompanying the race that's now starting to open up a little bit more. Any clear signs of major differences in approach to this race in terms of tactic, how these athletes are breaking the race down? As you mentioned in the previous race, one can take it stretch by stretch, buoy interval by buoy interval. Any signs of that happening? Any early signs of a particularly sound tactical move by some of the leaders?
A tactical move has taken place from the Peruvian sculler Loughros Ruiz, who is in a surprise move leading the current world champion Martini by a number of lengths. This is very brave from the Peruvian, who is perhaps just trying to get one over, just scare the field, but can he hang on? We're barely even scratching the surface of this race at the moment, and Peru are just trying to get one up on the current champion. This is very surprising to see the Italian being led by someone at this point in the race. Martini also now trying to keep an eye on his Italian compatriot Garibaldi, who has very cleverly just taken advantage of that pile-up that happened at turning point one. He's kept his cool, he rode through it, he sort of stuck out the way, and he's been sat in bronze medal position ever since, and not done anything silly to try and let it go. He's not put in any big sprints, like we said, anything tactical on this long stretch. He's not trying to row his race any differently because it's a longer stretch. On the other hand, who is rowing this race very differently because it's a long straight stretch is Lars Vikart, and we've seen all of these athletes who are used to the Olympic class style of rowing, that 2 kilometre straight stretch where they just row in a straight line. line. Lars Vikant is very used to that, having come from that style of rowing, and he is motoring through the field. He has passed the Spanish, he's passed Spain too, in Miraman Koroga. He has now passed the Swedish sculler in Gustafsson, and he's ploughing his way towards the Italian on the outside of the bend. But all of them have made the fatal mistake of following the Peruvian of Linares Ruiz, and they're so far, of course, that I don't know if any of them have even noticed. We're now heading back towards the mainland, and from my commentary boat I am looking directly at turning point 3, and they've all skewed off all the way to the right of it. The Peruvian's now noticed. He's looked over his shoulder and gone, oh my word, I am so far, of course, I need to rectify this. There was a little glance across there from Garibaldi to his left, and he's seen the same thing, and he's almost stopped to turn himself round. The same's happening in the middle of the field. The experience from the Swedish sculler made him notice that early. Gustafsson has curved round the inside of all these scullers that were lulled into a false sense of security by Linares Ruiz. And Linares Ruiz now back on track, but they've done a huge arc round into the middle of the course. They're now rolling back round to the outside of the course. I'm unsure whether the currents have changed, you know. They might have actually swapped round, and they're all now being pushed into the centre. This is quite remarkable. And this happened in Heat 2 of this men's solo sculls as well, remember. A lot of them followed the leading sculler, the likes of Alberti, Gustafsson, Berria Marin, Ledard, Blanc. They all got lulled into that trap in Heat 2 of following the leading sculler, and then they all almost missed the second buoy. So the exact same being replicated here, a carbon copy in the A final. So this has really opened the field up. I think the winner of this race will all come down to not perhaps who's the fittest, but who is the best navigationally. We're out here on the water. It's all those nautical skills that these solo scullers only have themselves to take responsible for this. And actually, I think the best line at the moment is being sculled by the Italian. I think Garibaldi's got this spot on. He's coming right in towards the buoy, maybe a little too close, but everyone else has now overcompensated and have gone out really wide. You've got the Spanish sculler, you've got the Swede, you've got Martini, you've also got the Peruvian who led that charge in the first place, Linares Ruiz, and actually on the inside, Garibaldi taking a great line in towards the buoy, and he's going to shave off a few metres compared to his sculling colleagues. So all extremely tight here, all to play for, and I think if we see anything like that again, it's really going to be down to who can read the water well, who's got those skills to be able to adapt to the changing conditions out here on the water. We're now the penultimate race of the day, and if you'd have asked this time this morning, most of the crews were drifting off to the opposite end of the buoy. So all changing here, all adapting, and we're going to wait here in the commentary boat just to see who comes past us in the hairpin first, because they're going to come back past us once they're round the hairpin of bend 3. And the navigational skills, it just goes to show you here, are so important. And actually the rest of the field is now bunched up to that leading pack, and anyone here could get a medal. Seriously, anyone. It's all to play for, and I don't know, Pete, Paul, the navigational element of this, I can't quite get my head around how they do it on the water. What do you think that they use to be able to determine where they're going? Do you think they research it beforehand?
They certainly do, Camilla. I think that they spend an awful amount of time plotting out how they're going to tackle each buoy. I mean, we've affectionately named a couple of them. We've got the Widowmakers, the first one. The second one we call it affectionately the 1 miler all the way out there. Then they come into the Twin Peaks, and then round to the Green Monster, and then the Club Turn as the last buoy, and into the home straight. Now, when you think about it like that, they'll be looking, as they go up to each one, they'll be thinking, in order to hit that next buoy, what do I need to line up with my stern? And they'll be looking at things like Baker Mountain in the distance, or the starting tent or the starting umpire's position as a useful key marker that they can keep in sight for as long as possible, and know that if they keep that lined up with their stern, they will largely be heading in the right direction until they can lock eyes on the key next buoy that they need to be aiming to go round. The challenge with that, though, of course, is that things can move you off course, tides, wind, etc. And when those things start to affect your trajectory, suddenly you're way off. So that's where the real skill and art comes in, of balancing the tides and movements with your direction and making sure that you're constantly on target for that next buoy. So it is very difficult. They'll be thinking about how many strokes it is across a 1.4 kilometre segment or a 2 kilometre or a 300 metre segment, and they'll be thinking, right, I'm going to pound out 50 strokes here and then I'm going to have another peak, or I'm going to do 30 strokes and then another peak. And it will be stuff like that that will be running through their minds to try and plot out exactly how far they've gone, in a similar way to thinking if they've covered half that distance, are they still on track? So they're coming up towards the next buoy. Very, very challenging stuff here. Each athlete will have their own different way of navigating. They'll be writing on their legs, you know, the shape of the buoy, perhaps the colour, the expected direction of the tide, so they'll draw some arrows, and they often do this on their thigh where they can see it, and the order of the buoys, and the arrows indicate the expected direction of the tide perhaps before or just after that buoy, so how they'll respond to that. So lots of key little bits of information that help to hone their skill so that they can be as clear and direct from buoy to buoy as possible and get around that 6K course as fast as possible. And that's all, of course, before you factor in the fact that they have so many other athletes alongside them who will want to trip them up along the way.
Yeah, you're right. They are quite tactical when it comes to lining up against the other solo scullers. It's quite gladiatorial, actually, that they're all side by side, just one-on-one, and we've got a lot of little tussles going on between pairings of crews here on the water. To update you after turning point 3, after all that drama of everyone going slightly off course and then pulling it back round, it's still Peru in the lead, despite that off-course line that they took. Linares Ruiz still in gold medal position, and Lars Vikart, that really gutsy plug that he put in down the back straight, down that long 1.9 kilometres, what he's used to, has really paid off now round the corner, because he sat in second, about 5 lengths back from Linares Ruiz. In third position at the moment, we've got the current champion, who's currently not in a position to be defending his title. It's Simone Martini in bronze medal position, but he has a pack of hungry wolves chasing him. It's the Swede Gustafsson who's going head-to-head with Garibaldi of Italy. The two of them lining up exactly bow for bow. It's Garibaldi taking the inside line again towards the affectionately known Twin Peaks at turning point 4. The Swedish sculler opting for the outside line, which all of the other scullers have done. So actually maybe Garibaldi is just not reading the currents quite as well as the other scullers. It's then the sculler from Spain, I believe, that's now got back into this race. He did have a bit of a fight with Ireland. Ireland 1 that came up alongside just to try and get in with a chance of the medals. That's Patrick Boomer, but Patrick Boomer's now been dropped off the back of that fight between Spain and Italy, and a great move there by the Spaniard. He's coming up through the middle between Garibaldi and between Gustafsson to try and clinch that 4th place position out of the grasps of Gustafsson of Sweden. But now all starting to align. The stars are aligning here for Peru, for Linares Ruiz, as he sculls off towards turning point 4. It's then in second, Lars Vikart of Germany, 5 lengths back, and 5 lengths behind him, Martini of Italy, sitting in bronze medal position. But the person most in jeopardy, I would say, is Martini at this point in time. Gold and silver are sculling away at least 10 lengths ahead of the pack, whereas closing in on Martini, we've got a pack of 4 scullers. We've got Gustafsson, we've got Spain 1, we've got Garibaldi, and we've also got the Irish sculler, again just plugging away, Patrick Boomer. He's really starting to lever past one of the early medal pole positions, Garibaldi from Italy, who's just looking quite tired right now. I think maybe he tried to capitalise on the earlier mistakes of other scullers and now is feeling the effect of that. We still have a long way to go. In fact, I figured it out. At this point in the race, we still have around turning point 4, 1,300 metres left to go. So 1.3 1.3k left now for Peru's Linares Ruiz as he takes the first buoy around turning point 4. He's about to reach the second buoy, and it's now the home straight for these guys. 1.3k, that's going to take them about 5 minutes, maybe a little more in these conditions, as it is a little bit bumpier now in towards the bay, and it's now the 300 metre short section towards the Green Monster, as you called it, buoy 5 for Peru. In second, Lars Vikart. He's been, again, I must repeat, he's been very tenacious, because he was very patient after that crash he had earlier on in the race. We were wondering whether that was going to affect him, but he's currently sat in silver medal position, so fair play to him. He has been very brave, very sturdy, and he's just really got that mentality. He's very used to side-by-side racing. This must be very difficult for him to be out in this open field. He's got 5 lengths in front of him, 5 lengths behind him, and it's going to be very tough for him coming into this final straight to keep his calm, but he certainly is at the moment. He's got a lot to do if he wants to be the champion. That's looking unlikely, but we've seen stranger things happen. But moving back, Martini, again, less distance between him and 4th place, and I think it's now Spain starting to push past Gustafsson of Sweden once again. This has been a really interesting development to watch. These middle scullers all vying to see whether they can get themselves lifted up onto the podium. They're all eyes on Martini. Martini is the man to beat. They know of his calibre, they know what he can do, and it's Spain now who's going to take on that challenge. It's the Spanish sculler, Miramon Quiroga, who's now looking to the next challenge, which is taking on Simone Martini. He's managed to overhaul Gustafsson. He's now a length up going into this 5th turning point. He's just got a few more lengths to go before he's going to have a bronze medal, hanging round his neck. Is that enough motivation for him? I'm sure it is. He's got the outside of the turn, outside of Sweden's Gustafsson in 5th position, but that hasn't fazed him. He's round the turn cleanly, and if he's going to have any hope of getting a medal, this is the stretch where it's going to happen. He's got about 4 lengths to make up on Simone Martini of Italy before he can say that he's going to be a medalist in the world for the World Rowing Coastal Championships in the men's solo. But Martini still hammering on. He really wants this for pride of place. To go from champion to bronze, I'm sure is going to hurt, but if he misses out on a medal entirely due to Miramon Quiroga's entirely fantastic race plan, he's really had a gutsy go at this, the Spaniard, then I'm sure it would be very disappointing. But actually, everyone now quite off course again. This current really strong here out in the water, combined with the wind, everyone has gone for their starboard side. They're drifting in towards the city rather than being pushed out and compensating for the current. So they're drifting this way towards our commentary boat that you can probably see out on the water, and all of them having to make huge corrections to get them back round the buoy. None of them want that time penalty. This is an A final, remember. The time penalty will absolutely be the difference between a medal and being off the podium. So that pack of scullers that's chasing the Peruvian, that's chasing the German, are all now having to correct, and whose line is going to be the best one that will get them round that final buoy and onto the straight in contention for a medal. There's only 3 medals to be handed out. 2 of them I think are reasonably set, but that bronze medal I think is still up for grabs. If you've got the best navigation skills, if you've got the best ability to manoeuvre a boat, the best boatmanship, I think that bronze medal is up for the taking. We've got 3 scullers going for it. We've got Martini, the reigning champion. We've got Miramon Quiroga of Spain, and we've also got Sweden still in it. Gustafsson, he's been there since the start. Can he make it pay off for him with the bronze medal? Peter, this is going to be utterly riveting for you in the finish tower.
So exciting. Martini currently in the bronze medal position, but as you say, Quiroga, he's so fast. I don't know where he's getting these late energy reserves from to have moved up past Gustafsson and now be contending for a potential medal here. I think Martini will have noticed this, and he started to lift the ratings around the final buoy. It's a clean turn for him, and Quiroga is now also starting to feel the pressure as Gustafsson starts to raise the rating. with them, though. I believe that's Patrick Boomer just rounding the final corner. The clubhouse turn for the sprint to the finish. But look at this performance from the Peruvian Eduardo Linares Ruiz of Universitario de Regatas. It's been a great race from him. He's led from the get-go, holding out and eager to maintain that potential of topping the podium to be crowned the World Rowing Coastal Champion in the men's solo. Lars Vika trying to hone in on him, but I think he's looking good for silver as it stands at the moment. So all eyes are on Simone Martini for that bronze medal.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for these athletes. Last year he was a silver medalist for Peru, Linares Ruiz, now coming in the lead to build on that silver last year and take it up to gold. Magnifique performance par le Péruvien. L'année passée, elle était deuxième, alors médaillée d'argent. Aujourd'hui, la médaille d'or pour Linares Ruiz du Club Universitario de Regatas de Pérou. En deuxième place, l'Allemand Lars Wichert, qui avait la collision après les premiers mètres, mais maintenant en deuxième place, une médaille d'argent bien méritée pour l'Allemand de Hambourg. Et nous avons toujours la lutte pour la troisième place.
Coming in to cross the line then, here we have Eduardo Linares Ruiz for Universitario de Regatas, crowning himself the World Rowing Coastal Champion in the men's solo, taking that gold medal here ahead of Germany's Lars Wiechert for Alemannia Hamburg, taking the silver medal. Simone Martini under pressure, but he's got over 2 lengths clear water up on the closest contender from Spain. But great race all round here. Simone Martini's going to take the bronze medal. I think we've got Quiroga under serious pressure now as Gustafsson has a quick look over his left shoulder just to see what sort of distance he's got to close down. Boomer's sprinting on the far side as well. They'll be battling it out for 4th place here if they can close in on Quiroga because Simone Martini is looking so good for the bronze.
Oui, c'est Simone Martini pour Padua en 3e place pour l'Italie. L'année passée, médaille d'or. Aujourd'hui, médaille de bronze.
Martini crosses the line for the bronze medal and then it's between Boomer and Quiroga for 4th place. It's very, very tight and Gustafsson just behind him for 5th or 6th. We'll have to wait for the official results to confirm all of those positions, of course. Coming in then for 7th, we've got Great Britain 0-3. This is Tyrian Club's Francis Heighton coming